This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Are you someone who owns a business and is looking for a good tool to use for making websites? Or perhaps you're an artist or designer that wants to show off your work to the world, but knows nothing about website creation? Well, Squarespace might just be the answer to your problem. And right now, if you click the link in the description, squarespace.com/NintendoBlackCrisis, you can use the code NintendoBlackCrisis to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I've been using Squarespace for the past year or so, and as someone who has zero experience with creating websites, I can confidently say that Squarespace does an excellent job with simplifying the process with the use of tools that let you quickly drag and drop text, images, or even videos. Even if you're not sure where to start, it gives you plenty of templates to use for your own site, and there's plenty of videos online with useful tips and tricks. Sometimes you can take one element and completely rework it to fit your needs. For example, I've only recently added this page to my site talking about Archive64, a second channel that I own which provides high-quality gameplay footage free to use in video editing. So, what I did was took this template from the People section, did a little tweaking, and now people can see some of the projects I've done on my channel. You can even click the image to access the playlist. How cool is that? So make sure to click the link in the description and use code NintendoBlackCrisis to save 10% off your first purchase. That's squarespace.com/NintendoBlackCrisis. It's already been over a month since the most recent trailer to Breath of the Wild sequel, now called Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and as usual, we still don't know too much about the game. And while this does make it more difficult to talk about the game itself, I prefer this over them showing us too much. I don't know about you guys, but going into this game knowing less would personally make it much more enjoyable. With that said, the recent teaser does give us some new stuff to work off of. But because much of the game's story is still unknown, I thought, why not make a video compilation covering multiple theories at once? These range from those that are more crackpot ideas to ones that have a bit more of a foundation. But, as always, before we start this video, I want to quickly remind you all that Nintendo has confirmed that the title is Tears of the Kingdom, as in teardrops. With that said, let's get right into it. So, one of the biggest topics regarding Breath of the Wild sequel is, obviously, the disappearance of the Zonai tribe. One of the ideas brought up following the initial E3 2019 teaser was that perhaps the tribe migrated underground, giving off the illusion of them suddenly vanishing without a trace. Another take on this was that the numerous luminous stone-like objects in the cavern were somehow related to the Zonai's disappearance. When you look at the luminous stone's description, some believe that their pale blue glow comes from the souls of the dead. 2 years later, more footage of the game was revealed, which introduced us to the Sky Islands, each holding mysterious ruins. At the time, it was theorized that perhaps the Zonai actually ascended to the heavens, rather than underground. But aside from that one shot with the flamethrower, nothing else about these structures screamed Zonai architecture. That is, until the most recent trailer. We see Zonai dragons carved into the giant door, as well as statues built into the sky ruins themselves. This connects the sky ruins to the Zonai ones on Hyrule's surface, which solidifies the theory that this tribe rose above the clouds, similar to the Akka or Wind tribe. Speaking of tribes, we've run into quite a few dark ones in the series: Majora's Mask's Ancient Tribe, Four Swords Adventure's Dark Tribe, and of course the Interlopers from Twilight Princess. As a matter of fact, there are many similarities between the Twilight and Zonai. Both have similar styled architecture, and you could argue that the Interlopers also mysteriously vanished as they were banished into the Twilight Realm. Not to mention the previous connection to Luminous Stones, a glow that sort of resembles the one in Twilight technology and the fused shadow. Could they, in fact, be the same tribe? To be perfectly honest, it might all be one big coincidence. Another theory I like comes from YouTuber Zeldalore, who suggests that the Zonai were a second off-branch of the Sheikah, much like the Yiga clan. The eye symbol present on this civilization's technology and Link's shield could be yet another variation of the Sheikah eye. And this way, there would be 3 separate branches of Sheikah to represent the 3 virtues of the Triforce. Sheikah for wisdom, represented with the color blue, Yiga for power, the reddish color of malice, and Zonai for courage, paired with the green-looking energy seen in the game's trailers. Moving on to the mural, something interesting about it is how, while the majority of soldiers are on the side opposing Ganon's forces, you can actually see that some of them are facing the opposite direction. Who these human soldiers are is unknown, but since we're talking about Ganondorf, it could be the Gerudo. Perhaps some of the malice has possessed these troops, or they may simply be traitors. This leads to the next observation. There appears to be some sort of figure cut off at the top, and the bottom of it does not resemble any of the enemies shown. I believe that this might be a different enemy in the army. Two possibilities are that it's a robed figure, similar to Wizrobes, or one of the wings of a flying enemy. After all, we do see a bat-like creature in this trailer. As a bit of a side note, this shot of the floating figure seems to have the same malice seen in the battle, so perhaps this shot is directly above and somehow related? Also, when you look at the design of the object to the right, it kind of looks like another person. I assume this bit is the waist down of the body, and it resembles neither the deity-like figure or the one that looks like Zelda. Since this shot gives off ritual vibes, perhaps this is Ganondorf? When you initially look at these mural shots, it all feels like history, as if it's trying to tell the player a story of something which occurred during an age long past. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Perhaps some of this isn't history, but prophecy? Now, I want to make it clear that this is all hearsay. Even if the floating figure is related to Zelda, it could simply be the one from Breath of the Wild's tapestry. Plus, if this really was meant to foretell Zelda's fate in this game, wouldn't it also have short hair? Of course, this is all with the assumption that these two figures are Zelda. I've already mentioned how the swirls in the hair are similar to the ones seen on Zonai and Twilight architecture, but something I only recently realized was that the swirl patterns on the giant dragon statue within Faron's Spring of Courage are also meant to represent hair. They appear on both the top and side of the dragon's head. In fact, a lot of mythical dragons in Japanese culture are depicted with long flowing hair. Pretty neat detail. At this point, it's pretty much confirmed that these scripts are a new sort of Zelda language. In fact, these are the same as the ones shown off in the E3 2021 trailer. Naturally, a lot of us are very eager to translate this text since it may give us additional information to work with. But this is something that's easier said than done. While some script directly translates to English, others translate to Japanese, which then needs to be translated to English. For example, almost all of Breath of the Wild's Sheikah script is of English words, with one exception being the tapestry. In this case, it translates to Japanese. So if the same ends up being true for this new language, it makes it a lot more difficult to decipher unless you have knowledge in speaking or reading Japanese. But recently, a person by the name of Zoe reached out to user GameOverJesse believing to have solved the translations. Now, full disclaimer that I cannot verify how accurate these translations are since I have no experience with Japanese, so I'm going to have a link to GameOverJesse's videos in the description below, and whether you choose to believe this or not is up to you. Another big mystery presented to us within the Tears of the Kingdom trailer is the identity of this strange figure. Given all of the previous Zonai connections, perhaps this is meant to be some sort of Zonai-related deity, rather than a person we've already seen. Because this figure is surrounded by 7 tear-shaped objects, a possible reference to the 7 sages, maybe this is meant to be a depiction of Goddess Hylia from this tribe's point of view. I mean, they already associate the virtues of the Triforce with the 3 animal motifs. In Breath of the Wild, Zelda mentions in her diary that she once had a strange dream, stating that, in a place consumed by darkness, a lone woman gazed at her, haloed by blinding light. Zelda sensed that she was not of this world, and that she didn't know if she was a fairy or goddess, but that she was beautiful. This mysterious figure spoke urgently, but Zelda could not hear what she was saying. This entry is right before the one where she talks about traveling to Mount Lanayru's Spring of Wisdom, suggesting that this person was trying to warn the princess of Calamity Ganon's revival. The bit about the woman being quote-unquote not of this world is interesting, as that description certainly applies to the one on the mural, but not so much the beautiful part. But if the figure in the trailer is wearing a sort of mask, it might explain this inconsistency. One of my initial thoughts on this trailer when I first saw it was that this person might be the ancient hero. Eventually, this train of thought led me down the path of believing that this figure is the owner of the disembodied hands seen in the first teaser. However, when you look at this shot, it's pretty clear that this person doesn't have long fingernails. Now, this is where things get weird. When you compare the thumbs of these two figures in this other shot, the one belonging to the mysterious person is obviously different. it has a much more jagged appearance, and does appear to have a long nail at the end. So I'm not really sure why this detail is only apparent in this particular shot. However, this does mean that both may be related. In the Gerudo Wasteland, there is one part of the region dedicated to the 7 heroines of legend. According to the Gerudo, each had a different power. But more importantly, the script on these statues translates to 7 sages. We also know that at one time there was an 8th heroine, but for some reason it was wiped from history. And while the site of the heroines only has 7 statues, 8 are present in the Yiga clan hideout. Therefore, it's possible that this person is that 8th heroine. So remember when I said that this individual may be wearing a mask? First off, it does sort of resemble the face of Bloopy's. You could even describe it as an owl appearance. Well, on page 207 of Creating a Champion, Satoru Takizawa mentions that the design of the divine beasts was not only inspired by Jomon pottery, but also referenced ceremonial masks from Southeast Asia. While this doesn't necessarily confirm anything, it does bring up the possibility of this person wearing a mask, and it stemming from similar inspiration as the divine beasts. When you look closely at the background of the E3 2021 trailer, the Deku Tree appears to be missing. Fast forward to the most recent teaser, and Link is shown climbing tree roots of a sky island. The atmosphere shown off here reminds me of the one in the Lost Woods, so what if, similar to Hyrule Castle, this place rose up and became one of the Sky Islands? It's possible, but to be honest, these particle effects appear everywhere throughout Hyrule. Another theory is that the Korok Forest was another place attacked by the Malice, similar to Death Mountain in Hyrule Castle. The Deku Tree could be dead for all we know. I also believe that there is a very strong chance that Nintendo has yet to show all explorable parts of the overworld. The fact that they've only focused on sky portions for the past 2 teasers may be to distract us from other possibilities, including underground caverns, underwater portions, or even separate realms. Perhaps some of the Sky Islands we visit will be within those mysterious portals the dragons fly through in Breath of the Wild. Even though shrines are gone, I believe that this game will use a mix of both traditional dungeons and mini-dungeons meant to replace the shrines. Doing so would be a perfect balance between dungeon styles. I wasn't the biggest fan of the shrines and divine beasts, but that doesn't mean nothing about them was great. Having the freedom to solve it however you wanted was extremely fun. Just make it so that the mini-dungeons give the player more freedom, with the story dungeons being a more linear experience. Some promotional art was released alongside the Tears of the Kingdom trailer, and it gave us a better look at Hyrule's overworld. The most notable things are the Malice erupting from Death Mountain and below Hyrule Castle, as well as the hurricane-like clouds surrounding Rito Village, or possibly the Hebra region. It's very similar to the Thunderhead from Skyward Sword. Ganondorf's revival likely has resulted in these natural disasters, and they might play a major role in this game's story. Perhaps each race is dealing with its own crisis. NintendoBlackCrisis! Really makes you wonder what's happening at the Zora and Gerudo settlements. These might be the locations for the game's main dungeons, or at least some of them. We certainly can't forget about the Sky Island portions. Okay, crackpot theory time. What if some of the structures seen in Breath of the Wild, like the Great Plateau and Lome Labyrinths, originated from the Sky Kingdom? I'll be the first to admit that there's not much to support this idea, it's just something I wanted to include. The fact that one of the mazes is located in the middle of the ocean is really odd placement, but it could be because at one time the land layout was vastly different. Something bizarre about Breath of the Wild are the massive skeletons found throughout Hyrule. I'm not just talking about the Leviathan bones, since there are many more in places like the Lanayru and Gerudo regions. It suggests that at one time these creatures roamed Hyrule, and I've always been under the assumption that these titans were either swimming in the ocean or flew in the sky similar to the dragons. I mean, one of them is obviously meant to be Levias. But wait a second, if the dragons are shown entering their own sky realm, are these bones also of creatures who used to live not in Hyrule itself, but the sky realm located above? I mean, there is one shot where you can see a dragon flying in the background of the Sky Islands. Actually, when working on this video, I came up with a crackpot theory to explain Naedra's actions when corrupted with Ganon's malice. Perhaps the reason the spirit stays at the Spring of Wisdom was because entering its Sky Realm meant that Ganon's malice would be able to reach the Sky Kingdom we see in Tears of the Kingdom. That could even be why Calamity Ganon corrupted it in the first place. The only problem with this is that Hylia states this being was possessed by Ganon's malice, possessed meaning completely controlled by an evil spirit. But if that's the case, why does Naydra show no hostility towards Link? Wouldn't it attack the hero? I mean, that's exactly what happens with the Guardians, who also fit the criteria of being quote-unquote possessed. Perhaps Naydra is capable of resisting this corruption since it is a spirit. So, you know those telescopes located at the Hateno and Akkala Tech Labs? For a long time, it's been questioned what their purpose was. The first possibility is that it had to do with the Sheikah's obsession with stars. But is it also possible that Pyrrha and Robbie were observing the strange portals the dragons fly through? It's true that most people can't see the dragons, however on some occasions they let themselves appear in front of people, such as the Rito and children. There's a Reddit post that maps out the direction the two telescopes are facing, and both of them happen to align with Dinrail's flight path. Very interesting indeed. On the topic of the telescopes, maybe the reason the Sheikah were so obsessed with the stars has to do with the Sky Islands. Creating a Champion does hint that the ancient Sheikah were stargazers researching the heavens, and it is confirmed that the place we fight Calamity Ganon is an astral observatory. It's interesting how some of the Guardian concept art here makes me think of the sequel. For example, this one looks like it's powered with a green-looking energy. This robot's eye reminds me of the design on Link's shield, and parts of this robot. And this next one looks inspired by the demon in Princess Mononoke, a film that heavily inspired Breath of the Wild. Crackpot theory time. What if the Zonai swirl is meant to represent the endless cycle of Demise's curse, and the tick at the end represents the breaking of this cycle? This leads into another possibility, that Tears of the Kingdom will be all about finally breaking this demon tribe's curse of death and rebirth. So a lot of people have already drawn parallels between this logo and the Ouroboros, an ancient symbol depicting a serpent or dragon eating its own tail, often meant to represent the cycle of death and rebirth. It fits very well with the theme of Zelda given Demise's curse and Samsara. But it's not an exact replica. The one on the logo is of two serpents, and they're not really eating each other's tails since their mouths are closed. It's probably still meant to represent the same thing, I just wanted to point that out. This is a bit of an old discovery by now, but when I revisited the first trailer some time ago, I noticed something interesting about the hand. It appeared as if it was extracting malice from Ganondorf's corpse. You can even see it flowing inside the hand. When grasping the body, no nails are visible, meaning that it's piercing his skin, and this is all likely related to the Pillar of Malice flowing up the center. But how does this relate to Tears of the Kingdom? It's a mystery still left unsolved, but perhaps there's much more to this story than we think. It's no secret that Breath of the Wild was heavily inspired by Ghibli works, specifically Princess Mononoke. The same can definitely be said for the sequel, as the malice attacking Link's arm draws a parallel to Ashitaka's, which was cursed by a demon. So what if throughout the game, Link is slowly dying from this curse? Or at the very least, it's slowly corrupting him? There's been a lot of discussion surrounding the vial-like objects on Link's hip and what they'll be used for, and one popular theory is that these are related to his hand abilities. Maybe throughout the game we'll be collecting more to unlock additional powers. Some concept art from Creating a Champion shows something kind of similar to this, and there are other things which support this idea, but I'm planning on doing a separate video on that, so for now, that's all you're getting from me. I gotta give credit to Austin John Plays for this next one because it's something that he mentioned in a Zelda Universe podcast I was part of. The shot of Link opening the giant door and running down the path is very similar to Breath of the Wild's opening with the Shrine of Resurrection. So it's very likely that this is going to be what the players see in the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom and will act as an introduction to this game's Sky Islands. And this sort of leads me into the next topic. Assuming that all of this trailer footage was taken around the start of the game, it means that Link begins with 4 vials. One theory I still subscribe to is that our goal will be to collect all these Tears of the Kingdom, each found in a different dungeon similar to Ocarina of Time's medallions. But assuming that these bits are from the start of the game, Link would not have 4. In my opinion, this further solidifies the theory of them being related to his hand abilities. Many have already drawn parallels between this robot and the Guardian ones such as Mazal and Godin, but it would be pretty cool if one of Link's powers was to control them, similar to the statues of Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. In fact, when doing this in the latter with the Dominion Rod, they are powered by a similar green energy. With the big focus of this game being the Sky Islands, I do hope there will be some sort of flyable mounts in the game. It would be amazing if Loftwings made a return. The closest thing we have at the moment is this odd bird-like contraption that appears to be gliding in the air. One frequent topic visited when it comes to Tears of the Kingdom is how the player will travel between the surface and Sky Islands. Right now the only method we know of is using time reversal on chunks of island to ascend upwards, but this doesn't mean that it's the only method of navigation. Some believe that these odd structures will be a way to access the Sky Islands. In fact, when you look at this shot from the 2021 trailer, the green energy is spiraling around Link as he flies upward. An energy that's also seen on these structures, so maybe both are related and it will look something like this.
Oh my gosh, is that a Zonai swirl?
Since we don't know much about what happened 10,000 years ago, as the only details given come from the Sheikah's tapestry, maybe a huge part of Tears of the Kingdom will be discovering that what we know happened is different from what actually happened. The details of events that transpired long ago were altered to hide a much more sinister plot. I mean, look at all the different murals were shown in the teasers. There's so much more to take away from this when compared to the tapestry. One thing that Breath of the Wild lacked was any sort of companion character, so perhaps that's going to make a return in this game. It's even possible that the companion character will be the spirit of this hand that was grasping Ganondorf's body. I don't care what anyone else says, I still have hope for a playable Zelda. It would be so fitting if she was part of the underground portion of the game, discovering different murals that tell us more of the legend 10,000 years ago. On the other hand, it's entirely plausible that Zelda will die in this game. In the most recent trailer revolving around the Sky Islands, 2 different Links have been shown off. While I personally believe that these are meant to be the same Link, some do think that they are different incarnations of the hero. In fact, time travel has been brought up as a possible thing, but I'm still not too sure. What if this set of games is actually going to be a trilogy? It would be pretty crazy if this game ended with a cliffhanger. You might have not seen this, but recently Nintendo promoted Tears of the Kingdom with this life-size statue of Link. By doing so, it gives us a better look at smaller details, such as his hand. On the back of Link's hand is a clearer look at the symbol from this trailer. I'm gonna go ahead and include this image of the symbol, which was made by Zelda lore. Unfortunately, this statue does not have the vials on Link's belt, which was probably done on purpose. But I mean, at least we get a closer look at the arm bracing. Lastly, and most important, I am very happy to say that Link will have a voice in Tears of the Kingdom. The only downside being that he's voiced by Chris Pratt. And that's 40-ish theories on Tears of the Kingdom. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe if you want to see more Zelda content such as this. I've been NintendoBlackCrisis, and I'll see you all next time.